Hello, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session. My name is Tirtha Mahmood, and I am the lead for International Education Services at the British Council in Bangladesh. In today's session, we will look at some of the aspects of living and studying in the UK, such as the application process, courses, deadlines, scholarships, visa regulations, etc. I have my colleague Shireen here with me today from UK Visas and Immigration, who is going to talk about the visa process while I'll cover the other aspects. We also have two UK alumni here with us today, Sharazad, who is a Development Solutions Master's Scholar and currently a lecturer at IUB, and Ashwarya, who is a Chevening Scholar. In the final segment of the session, they will share their first-hand experience of living and studying in the UK. If you have any questions at any point in this session, please post them in the chat box and we will answer them towards the end of the session. Just give me a minute to share my presentation. So let me start with a little about the UK. As we all know that the UK has a global reputation for academic excellence, and it's the perfect place to develop your talents. Uh, our institutions constantly top global rankings, which means you will receive a world-class education, gain respect from employers all over the world, have great experiences, and last but not the least, make friendships that last a lifetime. By choosing to study in the UK, it is your chance to discover the very best in yourself. The UK is the home of the English language, and this is spoken by over 95% of the population. By studying here, you have the perfect opportunity to master your English skills. The UK's other native languages include Scots, Welsh, Irish, Gaelic, Ulster Scots, and Cornish. People from all over the world have made their home in the UK, and alongside our native languages, you will find people speaking other languages as well. I won't be going through all of them, but you can see them on the screen here. Most of these non-native languages are spoken in major metropolitan areas such as London, Birmingham, and Manchester. So the UK has an affordable cost of living. Studying in the UK is always good value for money, and average living costs here are lower than in both the US and Australia. There are different options to suit different budgets. You can expect to pay around 800 to 1,300 pounds a month to cover your rent, bills, food, and other living costs. From around £10 a month for a mobile phone contract, £2.50 for a cup of coffee, between 20 to £40 for a gym membership. These and other costs will obviously differ depending on where you live and study in the UK, with London and other major cities being more expensive. The UK is an amazing place to study. Two of the world's top three universities can be found here, and a further 26 of our universities and colleges are among the world's 200 best institutions for learning. That's why we are one of the most trusted and popular study destinations in the entire world. And why? In 2018, 2019, over 485,000 undergraduates and postgraduates chose to study in the UK over other countries. The UK makes you more employable. A UK education is world renowned. As mentioned in my previous slide, these exceptional standards of education are why UK graduates are among the most employable in the entire world. 90% of international students are very satisfied with their UK education experience, and the majority say they have progressed more quickly in their career and earn more than their peers educated elsewhere. So this is very exciting news for people who are looking to study in the UK. That is the new graduate route. From summer 2021, international students who have successfully completed an undergrad or a master's degree will be able to benefit from 2 years work experience in the UK upon graduation through the new graduate route. Students who complete their PhD will be able to stay for 3 years. The graduate route will be available to international students who have a valid student visa at the time of application and have successfully completed a degree at undergrad level or above at a higher education provider with a track record of compliance. Graduates will also be able to switch into skilled work once they have found a suitable job. My colleague Shireen will cover more on this in the next segment of the session. So the UK has strong links with the industry. The UK is a world leader in technological innovation, and many multinational companies are headquartered here. Our universities and institutions maintain strong links with these and many other industries. This ensures that UK's learning approaches are industry-led and that students benefit from practical work and courses that understand current practices and demands. With many UK courses, this means you can undertake an internship or a work placement while you study and gain real applicable experience. The UK is the best in science, research, and innovation. The UK is one of the world's most trusted and most innovative countries and has consistently been at the forefront of science, culture, finance, politics, and more. It is the birthplace of many world-changing events, from the Industrial Revolution to the invention of the World Wide Web, and this small country continues to exert enormous global influence. Although it represents just 0.9% of the global population, the UK produces 14% of the world's most highly cited scientific research. Since 2007, the impact of that research has ranked number one among G7 countries. As part of your education, you may choose to study at a Russell Group university. Together, these 24 institutions produce more than two-thirds of the world's leading research produced in the UK. You can find out more about the Russell Group at russellgroup.ac.uk. So finding a course that's right for you. UK universities have one of the most diverse subject offerings in the world, and by studying here, you'll be given the support and space you will need to be imaginative, ambitious, and to think differently. UK undergraduate course types include bachelor's on undergrad degrees, full-time, bachelor's on undergrad degrees part-time. There are shorter courses as well, such as a foundation degree, diploma of higher education, higher national diploma, and certificate of higher education. Postgraduate courses in the UK are often shorter than those in the US and Australia. Many, such as our prestigious MBA degree, takes just 1 year to complete. This allows you to get excellent value for your money in your studies and means you can begin applying your education to the real world sooner. UK postgraduate course types include master's degrees, MBA courses, PhDs or doctorates, postgraduate diplomas and qualifications. These are usually shorter than a master's and do not involve a thesis or dissertation. And lastly, professional and vocational qualifications. So moving on to how to apply. Most undergraduate applications are made through UCAS, the Universities and Colleges Admission Service, which is a UK-based organization whose main role is to operate the application process for British universities. You can search for more than 50,000 undergraduate courses at ucas.com. These courses are provided by over 380 UK universities and institutions. Their subject guides also give you an insight into the courses you could study at undergrad level, what they involve, and how to enroll. So looking at undergrad application deadlines, for courses at the University of Oxford and Cambridge, or for most courses in medicine, veterinary medicine, science, and dentistry, the deadline is October. For most undergrad courses, the deadline is the 15th of January. For some art and design courses, the deadline is March. And 30th June is the late deadline for most undergrad courses. Applications received after this deadline will automatically go into clearing, so you will not be guaranteed your first choice. So applying as a postgrad, some postgraduate courses are listed on the UCAS postgraduate website. But in this case, most students will choose to look at university websites themselves. On these university sites, you can find information about all the postgraduate courses that are available, including entry requirements. The majority of UK universities accept direct applications that can be made through their websites, as mentioned before. Postgraduate applications are very straightforward, but it's always worth checking with the university what the specialisms are that they offer. For example, a computer science master's degree at one university may be different to the same course at another university. So make sure you check the individual modules and that the course is right for you. When applying for any course, you'll be asked for paperwork and documentation, obviously, such as English language tests, your previous qualifications, and academic and professional references. You'll also be asked for a personal statement. This is where you talk about your skills, hobbies, interests, and why you have applied for the course. So postgraduate application deadlines. Deadlines for postgraduate courses are usually very flexible. Often courses only close once they're full. However, for popular courses, this can be as early as January or February. So it is worth checking with the university how popular your chosen course may be and if there are any specific deadlines you should know about. So let's look at the fees now. For international students, undergraduate tuition fees range from around £10,000 to £26,000 per year for lecture-based degrees. For medical degrees, you can expect to pay up to £58,600 per year. As postgraduate degrees in the UK are typically shorter than undergraduate degrees, they're also cheaper. In fact, most postgraduate degrees in the UK can be obtained in just 1 year, making them excellent value for money. Postgraduate degrees range from £15,000 per year for taught degrees up to £30,000 for laboratory and clinical degrees, as well as MBA programs. Some universities may charge up to £50,000 for the MBA programs, though this is rare. So working part-time while you study, if you're over 16 and have the right visa, it is easy to find a part-time job while you're studying in the UK. For most courses with a Tier 4 student visa, you will be allowed to work up to 20 hours during term time. But before you consider looking for work, check your visa and residence permit paperwork, which will state how many hours a week you're allowed to work during term time. Check with your university rules as well to see if it restricts where you may find a job or the hours you may be able to work. For example, some universities may only allow you to work inside the student campus. Finally, speaking English, the International English Language Testing System, IELTS, we all know it, measures the language proficiency of people who want to study or work where English is used as the primary language of communication. So this is one of the key requirements to gain admission into a UK university. All of the UK universities accept IELTS results, and international students are typically required to gain a score of 6.5 or above in order to study in the UK. Some of the UK's top universities, such as the University of Oxford, require a score of 7.5. Finally, scholarships. There is a wide range of scholarships that the British Council provides and manages. These include the British Council scholarships for women in STEM, Commonwealth scholarships, Commonwealth Rutherford fellowships, Great scholarships, Hornby scholarships, Chevening scholarships, and Charles Wallace Professional Visits Program. So in a subsequent session, we'll be talking about the scholarships at length. So please keep an eye on the Daily Star Facebook page for that. With that, I'll stop here and over to you, Shireen.
Thank you, everybody. I'm just going to share some slides with you all. So we're going to now talk about student visas. So just a little bit about me before we begin. So I am the Regional Communications Manager for UK Visas and Immigration. And prior to this, I worked in the university sector dealing with incoming students and supporting them through their recruitment. So I'm very familiar with the student visa process, both in terms of seeing it from this side and seeing it from the other side as well. And the main thing that I'd like to get across to you guys today is there is a wealth of support available for you. So from Visas and Immigration, from the British Council, and from your universities themselves. So don't be afraid to reach out to people. So today we will be covering the application process, how to apply for your student visa. We'll also touch on the graduate route, and then we'll also come on to some top tips to help you make a successful application. So just before we begin, I want to share some stats with you. As you can imagine, the pandemic has affected travel worldwide. However, we're really pleased to see that the number of students who are choosing to study in the UK from Bangladesh has been phenomenal. From the last year, there has been a 410% increase, and now over 10,000 students were granted their visa. If we compare this to just 2 years ago, it was just over 1,000 students, close to 2,000. So as you can see, there has been a massive jump, and so many students from Bangladesh are choosing to study in the UK. And we've already heard some of the reasons why. Now, in terms of the application process, it is relatively simple. The main thing that I would say is what you're going to do is submit your application online. We will talk about the documents that you need as well as part of this. So you will be paying an immigration health surcharge that is £470 for the year. What that means is it will give you access to the NHS, the National Health Service. So any kind of medical treatments, including COVID treatments that British citizens get, you will also get that. You will submit your fingerprints, so that's your biometrics, as well as any documents that you need, and you may potentially be asked for an interview. We will then use all of that information to make a decision, and you will be given a 90-day visa to travel. Now, we recommend that you apply only when you are ready to travel, when you've received your offer and all of the information that you have. And it typically takes 15 working days to submit an application. There are 2 visa application centres in Bangladesh, in Dhaka and Sylhet, so you can use one of those. So just coming on to the application documents and what you need to provide, there are 3 main things that you're focusing on. So again, another takeaway from this session is this slide. This is the one that you should be remembering. So number 1, you need to have an offer from an approved educational institution. So that will mean your university or higher education provider. They will be giving you a CAS letter, and that's what you will use to prove that you have your offer. Number 2, you must show that you can speak English. Now, the universities themselves will assess that. We've already heard about the IELTS test, and that can be one way of showing. Ultimately, we will be asking to see the proof that the universities are asking, and typically we are satisfied with what they are asking for. And number 3, you should show that you can support yourself financially. So that is having enough money to cover your tuition fees and maintaining yourself in the UK. Now, we will go into that in a little bit more detail. So in terms of the documents that you need, you definitely need a passport, and it must show a blank page in it, so we can stick your visa vignette, so your visa sticker, inside of your passport. You must show your CAS letter, which we've touched on, and evidence of your finances or a scholarship if that's what you've received. And we will come on to that in the next slide. There are a few other bits of information we may require. This could include proof of consent or a relationship to your parent or legal guardian if you are under the age of 18. We may ask for your proof of English, your educational documents, so that's your certificates, and depending on the course, you may need to provide an ATAS certificate. We may also ask for a TB test result as well. So coming on to funds, this is a really important part. And what we're looking to see, as we said, is that you can pay for your course or your living expenses. Now, you can see here listed the amounts that you will need to show. So if you are living in London, it is slightly higher given the cost of living is higher. For the rest of the UK, it's £1,023 per month. So if you times that by 9, that's the total that you need to show in your bank account. and you should be holding that for 28 days from before you paid for your visa. So that total in your account for around a month. We can also accept if this money is in a parent or legal guardian's bank account, an unconditional loan to show how you're paying for it, or in some cases, there are government sponsorships or other scholarships and sponsorships available for students. So all of those would be accepted. The main thing is showing that proof. So now, just coming on to the graduate route, we have touched on that already a little bit, but I will give you a little refresher. So we're really pleased that it's open for applications. It has been open since last summer. And what this means is you can stay in the UK for 2 to 3 years after your course, 2 years if you've done an undergraduate or a postgraduate course, 3 years if you have done a PhD course. You will pay £700 for your graduate route visa and the immigration health surcharge again that we mentioned. And this will give you the opportunity to work or look for work in the UK. So the great thing about that is there is no sponsorship. There's no minimum numbers for this route. There's no minimum salary threshold. We understand as somebody new in their career, you may change jobs a few times. You may be doing unpaid internships. You may be doing work experience. All of that is fine on this route. Now, it's a similar application process, but it is digital. You make your application online while you are still in the UK. You will be submitting your fingerprints again, but this time you're doing it through an app. So you don't need to go into a visa application center. And you should get your visa. It will be an e-visa, so it's all done digitally, which is really innovative. And this normally takes around 8 weeks. So what we encourage students to do is to apply once they have their final results from university while they are still in the UK. So just coming on to some travel advice. I know things are changing very quickly at the moment, but this is the advice as of today. So at the moment, you do need a negative COVID test. When you arrive in the UK, that should say arrival, apologies there. So it's either a PCR or a lateral flow test. You no longer need to isolate for 2 days on arrival. And if you are fully vaccinated, so the Sinopharm, Sinovac, Pfizer vaccines, I know they all are commonly used in Bangladesh. They are all acceptable. That's fine. There's no quarantine. And you must fill in a passenger locator form. So that just gives us information about where you'll be staying when you arrive, so we know where you are if we need to contact you. So now we're just going to come on to some general advice. This is all really helpful for students when they are submitting an application. So just a few things to bear in mind. Giving you another reminder of the 3 most important things: your offer, aka your CAS letter, being able to show evidence of English, such as an IELTS test, and number 3, proof of finances. So if you take one thing away from this session today, I would say just remember the 3 things over here. A few other things that we find, it's nothing to worry about or be concerned, but just some risks that we find with some applications. So of course we know that you're not going to do this, but ultimately, if you can give us the most information that you can in your application, it makes it a lot easier for us and for yourselves. We can assess your application quicker and faster. It also means we're less likely to need to contact you for more information, and you're more likely to get your application back in a quicker time. So sometimes we do see students with poor English language ability. They don't always show evidence that they can speak English. So that should be assessed by your university. Now, study gaps is nothing to worry about. That is completely fine. But just explain on your application. So if you have been out of education for a few years, if you've been working, raising a family, that's completely fine. But just put that on your application so we understand why there's been a gap. We do also see some questionable activity around the funding. So this could be false bank statements and forged documents, which are not allowed. We also sometimes do see a lack of transparency about where the money is coming from. So we need to understand very clearly how you are paying for your course and looking after yourself. So you need to make sure that any documents you do provide are official, and there is no unverified information or questionable things that may make us want to do a bit more digging just to make sure it's accurate. We also see some applications that are not credible. Now, given the fact you are watching this webinar today, that makes me think you are not one of those people, but just make sure you are applying for the right reasons. You do have the intention to study in the UK. And finally, we do sometimes see non-disclosure of travel history and other facts. So when you apply for your visa, as part of it, we will do some checks. And one of those is checking to see if you've applied for a visa elsewhere. Now, if you put that down on your application, that's completely fine. You're telling the truth. But if we find something that you haven't included, it makes us dig deeper and wonder, why are you hiding this information? So even if you've applied for a visa elsewhere before and you haven't got it, that is fine. Just make sure you put it down. And just before we end, I just want to remind you that interviews are not there to catch you out. Just be prepared. There's a lot of information online, so make sure you can answer the questions. Some of them are listed there. And finally, the truth about visas. They are simple. As we said, you only need 3 things. They're equal for everyone. It gives you the opportunity to study in the UK. If you want to stay on the graduate route, you can do that. If you choose to take your knowledge with you back to Bangladesh, you have plenty of opportunities. They are flexible and they do lead to many more opportunities for you. So I hope you found that useful today. If you do have any further questions, please pop them in the chat bar and we will return to them towards the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Shireen. With that, I would like to move to our alumni, Shahrazad and Ashwarya. Welcome to today's session.
Thank you.
Hello.
So I'll just go straight to the point. I'll ask you questions, some from the audience, some of my own, right? So what was what was that one deciding factor that this is for both of you? What was that one deciding factor that made you choose UK as a study destination? Shahrazad, you go first, and then Ashwarya can answer.
For me, it was always I had my cousins studying there. I had my relatives studying in the UK. So growing up, I always wanted to be like them. And, when it was time for my master's, the university program seemed like a very good, fit, and a lot of factors, but obviously the scholarship helped. And it was just that, there was a hype that UK education is always very good. So I think initially that has helped me choose UK.
And
I'm
Ashwarya?
Yeah, so the reason why I picked the UK is when I started looking up the subject that I wanted to study to do my master's in, I did mine in development studies. And if you look it up in terms of the subject and the QS World Ranking, the top universities for development studies are pretty much all in the UK. So that's how I went ahead and started applying. That is how I came, I landed upon SOAS University of London. And also because at SOAS, it makes me a legacy because my grandfather did his PhD from SOAS back in 1969. So I was like, this is where I go. So that's how I ended up there.
Right, interesting story. And so my next question is, so what are the factors one should keep in mind while choosing a university? And I'm sure it differs from person to person, from course to course. But how do you actually start the process when you go about looking for a university?
Shahrazad, do you want to go first or?
Oh, you can go first, sure.
Okay, so I think it starts with a lot of research at first. So you dig deep, because if you look up universities, the first thing we usually do as applicants is to look them up in terms of ranking. But the biggest mistake we make is that we just look at a university as a whole. The trick is, or I believe the trick that worked for me is to look in terms of which subject I wanted to study. Because some universities may be really great in terms of as a whole university, but they may be not as great in terms of what subjects they're teaching. So we dig deep, do the research, and then the further you go in, you kind of look up what courses are being taught, what teachers are teaching those, what are their researches. You do a little more digging in terms of the professors and what kind of work they've done, and if it kind of kind of lines up with what you want to do in the future, like research or job in terms of that. And then that's basically how I picked my university. That's how I looked into it.
Basically, I exactly did whatever Aishwarya has said. So I looked into the subjects and I looked into which universities were really good in environment. So I studied environment, so I looked into those, and that's how and I also looked into the subjects, which subjects really interest me, and that's how I chose my university.
Right, right. So this is a question I'm sure like most of the people in the audience have. This is regarding scholarships, and since both of you have are scholars, so what are the main points one should remember to cover in his or her application for the university, or at the time of applying for scholarships? How did you go about your whole scholarship process?
Obviously, you need to understand the university better. You need to show them that you've done your research. You are really interested to work with them. Another thing that I did was I made it very clear what I want to do when I come back to Bangladesh. So I was very clear from the beginning that I want to work in the development sector. I want to work in the coastal region. So I've made it very clear so that they know that I've got a goal, and that's what they want to see at times. So I think these are the two things that has really worked for me.
And Ashwarya? I think Ashwarya is frozen, and now she's gone. Okay, we will continue with Sharazad, and we'll wait for Ashwarya to come back. And Sharazad, what would you say? Like, this is not related to your studies, but this is related to sort of adapting to a new place. So, what would you say was your biggest challenge when you went to a new country, had to study there, live there, work there? What was your biggest challenge?
Well, it might sound funny, but the weather. Because Bangladesh, we have like it's so beautifully sunny. Obviously, when we are here, we always we took it for granted. But when I went to UK, it was always gloomy, and I would oftentimes cancel my plans. I would wake up, and look outside and just cancel my plans. So I would definitely advise people to not do that. A lot of my friends would do that as well. So. Uh, just a gloomy, don't let the gloomy weather ruin your day, the number one. And then number two would be um, I, honestly speaking, I don't think I struggled a lot because language was never a barrier for me. And I reached out to people. I reached out to the student council. I reached out to the society. So it was always eventful. So within a month, I think I was well settled there. I can't hear
Sorry, I
you.
think I was on.
Yeah,
Sorry, I
you're
was on
on.
mute. So this brings me to brings me to another question that when you were in the UK, like what options does a student have like socially, like in terms of joining a club, for example, association or a society? What options did you have when you were there?
Plenty. I think there were Bollywood clubs, or there were a Bollywood society, and then there was a knitting society, and then there was a Bengali society. There were so many different things to do, and the university kind of makes it. They try so much to welcome you in the first week. They're always doing something. They're sponsoring things. It really depends on from universities to universities, but I think they have like a lot going on. Just if you whoever is joining a new academic year should look into the Welcome Week program, and if they start from there, I think they'll have plenty to do in the first week.
And Aishwarya, what about you? Did you join any clubs, any society when you were there?
Not in the university. I mean, I was a part of the student union, but other than that, I mean, what made it really exciting while I was living in London is that every corner you turn, there's a volunteering opportunity. Like there are community gardens, and there are shelter homes for people, like homeless people, where you can just go and cook food for them and pack it and give it to them during weekends or even weekdays, whenever you want. So I mean, the university is packed with many opportunities in terms of what you can do, which was a little tricky in my year because I went during a year when everything was under a lockdown. So I couldn't go to the campus as much as I wanted to. But then I did have the opportunity to kind of keep myself busy by doing all this volunteering job that was not on campus. So yeah, that's how my experience was in London. It was pretty different than how I believe Shahrazad had hers.
So before we lost you, I was kind of asking Sharazad that what was her biggest challenge when she went to a new country in terms of adapting to a new place, studying and living there. What was it for you?
I think the biggest challenge is that when we see others go before us, they only show us, because I mean, thanks to social media, they only show us the nicer things that are happening to them when they're abroad. So when I left, I was really excited because, I'm on a big airplane. I'm going to I'm going to the UK. But then once you walk into that dorm room, which is empty and it's not yours, the sense of I don't belong here just hits you smack in the face. It takes a bit of time to get used to it. Like you put your clothes in your closet, you put your toiletries in the bathroom, and slowly but surely it starts becoming your home. But just the first few weeks of that sense of not belonging, it like really gets to you. And I mean, UK is known for its notorious weather. So gloomy and sad, and it can get quite depressive. So you really have to navigate through that. But I mean, whoever is there right now, it surely becomes home. So you'll get there.
Right. So my next question is, I know Shireen and I have already covered it a little, but we'd like to hear your firsthand experience. Like, how should one manage the budget, and what is the average cost of living? You can talk about your city, so that's fine. So I'll start with Aishwarya.
Okay, so London is very expensive, especially if you're living in central London, which is where I was. Thanks to Chevening, however, I didn't have to worry about it as much because, I mean, on time every month, the expenses would come into the bank account. But then what I religiously did was I made an Excel sheet from day one, and I literally was as like I would annoy myself at the end of the day because I would literally not go to bed without putting every expense down at the end of the day, and that is how I kept myself in check. Because I mean, you go in London, especially in central London, the second you go out, if you don't keep tabs on how much money you're spending, within a few hours, £100 gone, just like that. So, and Oxford Street, like if you go there, you're done for, because Oxford Street is known as the shopping hub in all of London. I mean, all of the UK actually. So you just have to keep yourself in check, especially because you're a student. And sometimes, especially students who apply eventually for PSW, there should be some backup money because you have to stay there a while in order to navigate through the visa process. So it's better to always keep saving. Like every month, set yourself like a goal that this is how much I'm gonna save from my stipend that's coming in. So you really have to like keep yourself on check when it comes to spending.
And how was the whole evening application process for you? Sorry, we lost you, and I was asking
I
Shahrazad that
know
question.
my internet just randomly dropped. I'm so sorry about that. The Chevening experience, I mean, the application process was, it was pretty much the same as applying for the universities. It's actually much smoother because the Chevening whole, the interface, it's just very smooth and very user friendly. So the same level of research went into it. The process is pretty easy. Administrative information, you put it all in. You need recommendation letters. You have to be very careful about the recommendation that you're getting. Go for professors or former colleagues who would give you the most authentic and true and honest recommendation, instead of somebody who would just write whatever you need them to write. And then the hardest part was to write the 4 essays. Like, you have to write 400 or 500 word essays, which is much harder than actually university statement of purposes. It took me like a solid 2 months to write those. But I mean, the trick for that is to just make sure that be very precise and very articulate about why you are choosing these universities, why you want to study this particular subject, and whatever you've done in your life in terms of academia or professionally or even personally. I mean, all of these things, how they kind of align with what you're planning to study and what do you want to achieve from this degree in the future. Like, how do you want to apply it when you're done with the degree? So as long as all of these things from your past, your present, and your future kind of align, you should be okay.
Okay, my next question brings me to accommodation. This is the question that a lot of people have, like, what should you do? Should you go for like a student accommodation? Should you get a separate place? How should you go about it when you go to the UK? Which one's cheaper? Which one's better? What are your thoughts? Like, Sharazad, you go first.
Okay, so I did a mix of both. So initially, I got into student accommodation, which is a little expensive, more expensive than comparatively. For example, if you'd pay £400 for like a private accommodation, for student accommodations, you could pay up till like £800 per month, which can get a little expensive. So initially, I was not bothered because my tuition fees was covered, so I stayed in on campus. But when the pandemic hit, obviously everything, things were different, and that's when I shifted to a private accommodation. And the university was nice enough to let us go before our term ended. And I think it really depends. See, if you're a very serious student, if you really want to concentrate on your studies and not be bothered with paying the bills and long commute, then student accommodation on campus is a good idea. But if you're on a budget and if you think that a little inconvenience is fine for you, then I would definitely say go for a private accommodation. You become friends with your housemates, and that's a different kind of fun as well. So it really depends on how much budget you have, actually.
My experience, I mean, I completely agree with Sharazad, but I mean, if you ask me, my experience was completely different, especially because I was most of the time stuck in my dorm because of the COVID lockdown. I am personally like a strong supporter of staying in a student accommodation because, I mean, not only do you get to make a lot of friends there because it's a lot of students staying together. I mean, for me, actually, staying in the student accommodation was cheaper in central London somehow because I think it was a SOAS like subsidized dorm that I got, so it was much cheaper because I did the same as Sharazad. Like, I stayed the first few months in a dorm, and then later on in a flat with a few other housemates. That was more expensive. But I mean, in the dorm, not only did I make a lot of friends, and also because we were all kind of stuck in the same depressive rut for quite some time because of the lockdown, we kind of created bonds that we know for a fact that would last forever, because we were a family. We had to be there for each other, like to the point where somebody would get COVID, they had to be taken to. I personally got COVID. I had it for 26 days. I had to be hospitalized, and my dorm mates essentially kept me alive, and I'm so grateful for it. And also because when a lot of like-minded people kind of stay in the same building, it also like kind of really helps with your personal growth, because you get to reflect ideas off of one another, because everybody is tremendously smart and intelligent. So my personal choice is to go for student dorm.
Well, if I may add something here, I
Great.
really think that
Sure.
yeah. So I really think the dorm culture is very nice initially, because when I started, it was pre-COVID, right? And we would have pizza parties. They would give us free movie tickets. They would give us free sauna tickets. Like, a lot of free stuff would be there, and you could meet a lot of your friends, a lot of different people from different countries. So it was like a hub to make new friends initially. So I don't know how things are, after this pandemic, but before that, and maybe especially because life is going back to normal now, I think to get used to that UK life, living in a dorm can be a very good option as well.
Right. I have a question for Shireen now. It's from our audience, and it says, "Is there any age requirement or restrictions? For example, like you have to be 18 plus or something for undergrad study, or can anyone above 20 apply for undergrad for an undergrad course or equivalent?" Shireen?
Of course, there's definitely no upper limit on education, and in the same way in student visas. So you can apply at 20, definitely go for it.
But what if he or she is less than 18? Can they still apply for an undergrad degree? Is there like a minimum age?
So I know in some places, some students will finish at the age of 17. I believe that is down to the individual university's rules, but I believe you can apply when you're 17, but you should be 18 when you are beginning a degree. But as I would say, just double check with the individual university, as they may have their own requirements.
Right. We've almost come to the end of the session, and thank you everyone for joining us. Any closing remarks from you all? I'll start with Shireen first.
That's all from me. Thank you. If you just remember, the key point is that you've got so much support out there. So if you need anything, speak to the universities that you're interested in, speak to the British Council, and also you've got us guys at UK Visas and Immigration. So you're not alone throughout this. There's plenty of people, so don't feel like you have to do all of your research or go through things alone, especially as times are changing so much in the pandemic. Everybody's here to help you on your journey.
Sharazad, Aishwarya, any advice, final advice for students who are planning to go to the UK?
Sharazad, do you want to go first?
Yeah, you're on mute.
Sorry. So my advice would be to have fun, please, because we're always, as master students, we're always studying, and we're staying up late studying and taking life so seriously. Don't do that, because you're just going to be there for a year, or maybe a year and a half, and trust me, you're never going to remember the times you've stayed up late and studied, but you're going to remember where you've visited a new place or new friends you've made. So it's an experience as a whole. So just have fun.
I would pretty much say the same, just to draw from what Charles had said. It's a lifetime opportunity, 1 year packed with experiences. Don't take, I mean, yes, do take the studying bit of it seriously, but I mean, balance it with a lot of traveling, a lot of living your life in the UK as well. And as Shireen said, the whole process of the application, including the visa application, is just so self-explanatory and easy and smooth. So just go ahead and do it.
So thank you everyone for your closing remarks. With that, we have come to the end of today's session. Thank you everyone who have joined, and we hope you found it useful. Wishing you all a very happy new year and a good rest of the evening. Thank you everyone.
Thank you.